your drums? Sure.
Really?
And Robbie says, well, I got a lot of guitars. What kind do you want? Jerry Lee says, any old Rockaday Fender guitar. Okay.
Oh, man, that's old school.
Yeah.
And he's still around too, man.
He is. You know, he's 86 or so, like Willie. Willie Nelson is my closing chapter, and he's 86 or 7.
Yeah.
So these guys are teachers for me to how to do this thing, you know.
Sure. And what was your, like, I had a weird encounter with Lou Reed, but it was just a fan encounter where, you know, I went to get a record signed at a record store in Boston, and he was signing records. And I just really wanted to ask him, like, the right question. I knew I only had a second, you know, and
he can't tanker us.
Well, yeah, but I didn't. I just was like, you know, I get up there and I'm like, hey, Lou, what gauge pick do you use? You know, like that was my big question. And he said, medium, man. You got to use a medium. And I used a medium for a few years, but it's just, yeah, he was cantankerous, but he was definitely definitive. Why did you choose to put him in? Do you have a lot of respect for his journey as well?
Well, yeah. At first, I didn't get the Velvet Underground. I saw them at the Whiskey, and, you know, I was a West Coast, not a Beach Boy maniac, but, you know, they were dark, and Nico was singing.
Yeah.
Then I realized, oh, wow, there's some power here in what they're up to, and musicianship is, you know, sort of secondary.
Yeah.
And then he'd tune his guitar, that ostrich sound, and hit the guitar like a percussion instrument. I went, oh, this is different. Okay.
There's some art to it.
What really was fun, I met him just after he got back from Czechoslovakia, where Václav Havel had him come over for an interview because he inspired Havel's when he was in jail. Yeah. And Lou was really, you know, high from that.
Yeah.
I got high just hearing the story, you know.
Yeah, sure. But it's interesting that you've been in L.A. for so long, but you didn't mention, you know, the Zappa scene. Did you not know Frank?
Yeah, we knew Frank. We used to go over to his house for jam sessions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Over in Laurel Canyon on the Wilson? On Wilson?
Yep.
But what was it like over there at that house?
Oh, it was cool.
Yeah.
We played the blues. We talked with Frank about, he was into avant-garde stuff, which we knew about.
So you guys would sit around and he'd play like his strange Italian art composers and stuff and do his...
Somewhat. He mainly watched everybody jam and took notes.
Oh, really? Huh.
I mean, mental, you know.
Yeah. But you guys, it seems to me that, you know, that whatever the sound of the Doors was, I was talking about it this morning to somebody because I knew I had to talk to you, is that, you know, people are like, well, the Doors seemed like there was a simplicity to it. And I'm like, yeah, but like you can't, the thing about the Doors and what you guys did is that if you can hear one note of a song and know exactly who it is, you know, that band is an authentic, real, you know, kind of groundbreaking, you know, bunch of people. Like, you know, I think the simplicity of it was sort of disarming that, like, you know, given Jim's darkness and his showmanship played against the kind of almost jovial rhythm of some of the tunes, it kind of had this interesting balance.
Well, I never heard that comment, simplicity, but what I think is what made us, you know, when you, like Lou Reed, you need to get enough technique to get across your uniqueness, whatever the hell it is.
Sure.
You know, classical musicians are the most technical of all time.
Right.
And they get a little stiff sometimes.
Right.
Although Gustavo Dudamel, who I write about, he's totally aware of salsa and Led Zeppelin, and that's why he's so fluid.
Right.
You know, I go backstage after, and he says to me, Juan, Gustav Mahler is heavy metal.
Yeah, I could see that.
And he, you know,
yeah.
So when you're open to being fed by all this, you find your uniqueness. You just need enough technique. Maybe that's the simplicity part to get your thing across. And you can get stuck if you get too much technique.
Right, you become sort of this kind of a noodler, a guy that can play really well, but the feeling's not there. You're
right. Let me show you all my shit.
Right.
And when you listen to Willie Nelson take a solo, there is space.
What a great guitar player.
It's phrasing, which is what Gary Shandling is talking about, which is what Ram Dass is talking about. The quieter you become, the more you hear. There's truth in that space.
Yeah, is that like what was it? What was you sort of riff a little bit about Gurdjieff? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, that's it. Well, there was this kind of iconic underground book, Meetings with Remarkable Men.
Yeah, I tried to get into him, but I didn't succeed.
Yeah, it's difficult. And then there was a cult film made by Peter Brook. Terrence Stamp was the star. It was really eccentric, but interesting in that all these men were were musicians trying to play so well they catch God's ear.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, that's it. Meetings with Remarkable Musicians. I'll just use that.
Right.
And each chapter will be about people who fed me. So. Yeah,
and it's like they're not all musicians, though. I mean, I don't know what. What your relationship was with the poet Robert Bly, but he seemed to have a profound effect on you. What was that about?
Well, I say remarkable musicians, Perrin, and other artists.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, he had a big effect on me, and I played drums while he read. I think writing is looking for music in between sentences, in a way. Phrasing again, space. And poetry is like the skeleton of language. It's really intense to try and get it so concise,
And what kind of time did you spend with that guy? Because he sort of led a movement for a little while there.
I was, once again, same deal. I was in early. We had these men's groups, and we were, trying to break the mold of drinking beer and watching sports. We were doing what women have done forever, talk to each other about feelings.
Uh-huh.
And I remember Robert saying, this ever becomes a movement, we're in trouble. Whoa, the men's movement.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't dissing women. We were just trying to share our shit like that's done at AA meetings or whatever.
Sure.
And it was a really great thing, and it got so big. But I would say that it inspired the Million Man March and some good stuff. So
it helped you personally.
Yeah.
What were your role models like as a kid? What was your old man like?
Oh, he was behind the newspaper.
Oh, really? That guy?
Yeah. And my mom, yak all the time.
Yeah.
And, twice a year, my dad would put the paper down and say, Peggy, shut up. And then back to the...
Oh, man.
But they were, together 40 years and dedicated. And I tried to do that route real hard. It wasn't my cards.
Yeah. And like when you look back at like in terms of the work you've done, start with the Doors. So you like in the Doors, what do you think was your sort of peak moment where you almost got God's ear? Because I mean, I listened to that. I love the fucking first live album, and
wow,
yeah, that thing, like to me, like I listened to the studio records, but the one with 1 and 5, and and I think the end is on there as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that record is sort of like that. That was it. That fucking rocked hard for me. And it felt like that you kind of got out there on that one, huh?
Well, we were still, like people say, what's the most exciting concert? Well, the giant Madison Square Garden was mass adulation, and that was cool for what that is.
Right.
But more exciting is the road up.
Right.
It's sort of like, wow. We're going to make a fucking living at this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of on that live record. We're still just, wow.
Yeah. But you're drumming, like, since you didn't really have a bass to work, to play off of. I mean, you had Ray's foot, but like the rhythm section was you. So like, who were you taking your cues from? Jim?
No, from myself.
But I mean, did you follow him? Like when you're doing the end and he's kind of riffing and going off and doing whatever the fuck he's doing. I mean, you must have been in some symbiotic trip with that.
Yeah, that's very true. On the end, I'm having that conversation with him like I saw Coltrane have with Elvin.
Yeah.
But a bass player, a separate bass player and a drummer, they work to keep the groove. Yeah. And so it was just me and Ray's left hand. And so when he would get excited playing a solo, he'd speed up. So I go, whoa, we got to pull the reins back. But without a bass, there was more space, more room for me to improvise. Keep my job. The beat is my job.
Yeah.
To play off everybody and push them and dynamics is the whole deal.
Yeah.
For me, I'm not the fastest drummer, but once again, if you play pianissimo and fortissimo and everything in between, then you're getting a whole range of human emotions. And that's where it is. That's
it. So that's the trick. Put it all into the thing. It's got to all
don't do it all at one level. That's why metal is kind of tough for me. I need some silence after that,
Yeah.
Like the up and down ride.
Yeah, and you talked to you also talked to Ravi Shankar, which is like, to me, like, it's like, I mean, I have the same type of ability to, like, not everybody can listen to jazz. Not everybody can listen to raga, and like, I love it. I love listening to Shankar or any of the dudes that do the long form Indian stuff. To me, it's like I can listen to that all day, and I find it completely compelling. What'd you take away from that guy?
Trance.
Yeah.
It's trance music.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, the Fab Four and the Fab Doors were simultaneously experimenting with then legal LSD. And there's no internet here. And then somehow we get onto Maharishi. Well, I guess we were thinking, this is informative but shattering on our nervous system. Yoga is a calmer route. So we get into that, and we get into that leads to Ravi Shankar and all of that. And so it's the same. We had no communication with England much, but they were sitar music was seeping into their stuff like us.
Yeah.
It's the Jungian archetypal undercurrents or something.
Yeah, the collective unconscious. It was just at that time there was an integration. That's interesting. So it was sort of a movement from LSD to Maharishi, and then all of a sudden sitar music is everywhere. That was the universal thread.
Yeah, I think in that chapter I say that it got so popular that they started using sitar music for porn flicks, and Ravi tried to stop them, but he couldn't. So the soundtrack of God became the soundtrack of sex.
Well, it somehow or another. And so, I remember, I think Michael Bloomfield in his, desperation and late stage addiction was actually playing for some porn soundtracks.
Oh, shit. Well, junkies will do anything, won't they?
I guess so, man. You must have seen a lot of that happen throughout the years.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if he was a junkie, but I mean addiction.
He was. Yeah, he was. It was pretty, I think he just, and that's just hearsay, but, did you feel the impact? Like, when did heroin really start destroying the rock scene in L.A.?
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
We're experimenting with then legal psychedelics and pot.
Yeah.
And we're street scientists exploring our minds.
Right.
And then cocaine comes along.
Right.
Even Jim thought, wait a minute, what is that? That's like heroin. Isn't that some heavy shit?
Right.
And then that becomes cool. And, we dabble. I'm already hyper, so it doesn't do it for me. I want to go the other way.
Right.
And then the culture goes on to heroin. Oh, my God. It's just like, no, really? Oh, God.
And that's when people started dropping.
Alcohol took Jim out pretty much. So
right. Old school.
The legal drug.
Yeah. Well, what was Janice like when you hung out with her?
Oh, Janis was really great in the beginning, real innocent, and then